right, good day, friends out there of Uncommon Podcast. We are so happy today. We are actually not in the treehouse.
Not in the treehouse. We're normal-sized chairs, stools.
Stools. And it's just, this is the most beautiful podcast episode we've had. So we're starting our video. Thank you for watching. If this gets out, this is going to happen right here. And we are here at the FWRD Fitness Studios with our guest, Stephanie, and you're going to hear more about that. But I also wanted to point out that today's podcast is brought to us by Bambucha. Yes, and I'm sipping the hibiscus rose, and I want to say it's great.
I
really
have
good.
mango masala, and it's pretty spicy.
The blueberry tart. We're sold out, but that is the best one. The blueberry tart.
Next time, we're going to be drinking blueberry tart. And this is episode 11 of the Uncommon Cast. So thank you for joining us out there. And we are excited today to not only be in this super cool space with our super cool friend, but also have a great conversation about what is spiritual and does the space matter.
That's right. So when we first started kind of dreaming about this idea of spiritual spaces, sacred spaces, and how kind of in our culture we think that certain spaces are places that we can connect with God, and then there's kind of the rest of our lives that we go grocery shopping and eat at IHOP, if that's something that we do. But and those are not places that we connect with God. But I work out at FWRD. I've been here for I think 3 years. I'm bad at time, but this space to me is like this really cool overlap of sacred spaces that you think are going to be not sacred, right? So the word that we use in Christian culture for not sacred, quote unquote, is this word secular, which we don't ever use that any other space except for in the church. So we try not to use it here, but a workout studio is not somewhere that you would necessarily consider sacred. And yet anybody who works out here knows that there is something bigger that happens at FWRD, something more than just like, I'm going to, get my heart rate up. So I want to introduce Stephanie, and she's the founder of FWRD. Woo. And I want to have her kind of just explain to us what FWRD is all about, and then we'll dive in and ask more questions.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored that you guys invited me. So FWRD, in a nutshell, it's a bar and fitness studio, and we specialize in group fitness classes. We have childcare and just a variety of class formats so that, wherever you are on your fitness journey, we, can help you move forward on your wellness path. So from the beginner to a seasoned practitioner, we have a spot for everyone. And yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We've been open, we rebranded in September, but we've been here for 7.5 years. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
For us unsavvy folk over here, when I hear that FWRD Fitness is a bar, I have a totally different picture than what you mean by bar. So what is that bar that fits with fitness?
So bar fitness, we use a ballet bar, but a lot of us actually have no ballet experience or dance experience.
Cody does.
Let's see it afterwards in that room.
Oh, yeah.
4:30 class. So we have, it's a very safe, effective workout routine with the ballet bar. It's all low impact exercises. And we have women like from high school all the way up into their 70s in the studio. So really the whole gamut. A lot of mother-daughters, we'll work out together. That's always neat to watch and witness. And a couple husbands we have too, as members too, that will come with their wives. Yeah. And it's it's very low risk of injury, the bar classes are. And then in addition, also, if people are looking for more and higher intense stuff, we have the cardio sculpt and interval classes as well.
Awesome. That's cool. I did not know that guys were here. That's
few.
There are a few.
That's
including
awesome.
my husband,
I
yes.
feel challenged.
You should.
I
told you guys before that you should come, and I told you that there were men.
Thought
They have childcare, dude.
it was all women.
Let's get that stay-at-home dad life and come and do bar stuff.
I'm going to consider it.
Going to a different bar than me.
So, all of that being said, I want to kind of hear your vision, right, for what it is that you want people who come here, what do you want them to feel? Either when they walk in the door or when they leave, how do you want that person to feel?
I want people to leave feeling, in a better state than when they walked in. I think all of us lead such busy lives, and this is their time to connect with themselves, to tune into their body, to breathe. It's not just a physical practice. And that they leave feeling refreshed, feeling grounded, connected, and then just ready to take on whatever is laying ahead of them for the rest of the day.
That's awesome. And I know that the women that come here, like the space is super important to them. Like there's more that happens here than just working out. And I love when we were talking earlier, Cody was kind of listening in on your answer when we were going over these questions. And what did you say, Cody?
Oh, I just said that because you had mentioned also like when people come in, you want them to feel like they immediately belong, that they have a space here. And everything that you just said just now and what you said earlier, if we asked a pastor or somebody who works in a church what they would want somebody to say when they come in and when they leave, you said exactly what a pastor would say.
That's right.
It's like uncanny.
Yeah, totally. Like, yeah, a sense of belonging, connectedness, feeling supported, a chance to like tune in to what's going on, like the deeper things in your life that often we don't have space for.
Leaving in a better state than which you came and ready to go into your day with a better perspective. Like all of that.
We strive for it. Yeah, one of the things that we talk about is like your path, your pace. And so going back to like that belonging piece is I never want anyone to walk through our doors and feel like they don't belong or that they're lacking or that they're not good enough. And so throughout class, we just try to, we try to encourage everyone to work at their own pace, take modifications, do what you need to do, like maybe close your eyes. And if you feel influenced by what anyone else in the room is doing, that's where we encourage everyone to close their eyes and just kind of say, tune into what your body's telling you. Let your body give you the cues of what you need to do in a certain exercise or pose.
It's funny. This just occurred to me, but like some of the hurdles that you are trying to overcome with FWRD in like the fitness space, as far as not hoping that nobody feels like they don't belong based on their physical fitness level, right? Or hoping that nobody feels bad about themselves based on the decisions they've made or, their health choices in the past. Just trying to create a space that there's like an even playing field. No matter where you are in your journey, you belong. Like literally, we say like that is why we started Uncommon Good.
Totally.
In the spiritual realm, to create a space for people, no matter their experience with spirituality in the past, no matter where they are in their journey, that there's a space that they can belong here. And we actually have no expectation of them. Like sometimes you find in churches or even with Christian friends, like there's an expectation of you're starting here at point A, and in 3 weeks, I expect you to be at point B on your spiritual journey and then at point C. And that's probably really common in the fitness world too. Like we have these goals that we need you to be reaching. And we have intentionally tried to like squeeze all of that out of Uncommon Good so that it's like you belong no matter what.
Right.
No matter where you are on your path. That's funny.
Well, what's funny about that too is oftentimes spiritual spaces that are designated spiritual spaces are some of the most divisive or exclusive because people come in already saying, I'm into a certain set of beliefs, which is other word for that is doctrine, right? I'm in for this doctrine, not that doctrine, so I'm here, or I'm in for this system or institution, which is religion, and that's why I'm already prescribed to this, which describes everyone else
That's
around, rather than a pure place of join us in the journey wherever you're at, and that's so good.
More inclusive versus exclusive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, you had talked earlier about the instructors bringing a message, and people leaving with a message. Talk a little bit about what you meant by that.
I think the biggest thing is that we don't want to be just a gym. Like I don't want to just be this physical, just a fitness class. From the moment you walk in, you feel the connection between staff members, community members, and then in class, there's always a mantra, an intention, an invitation for intention. So at the beginning of class, we might encourage you guys to focus on your breath, to close your eyes, and just to tune into what your body needs. What do you need from that day? And then sometimes the teacher will say, some kind of invitation. Like today might be, let's see, like be okay with discomfort, like find the comfort in discomfort might be like one message, or you can do hard things. And then you will try to connect with that throughout class. And the teacher might, bring it back throughout class and maybe during challenging parts, and then leave with that message too. Like, how do you practice and how do you weave that throughout your day? Whether you're parenting, whether you're going to work and you're like, okay, yes, I can parent, I can do hard things. Like you just, like you have more patience and you can just make better decisions. Yeah.
Love
We
that.
need to chart those for future episodes or talks about I can do hard things and to find the comfort and discomfort, because that is
So
such a
good.
meaning of life too.
Yeah. Oh, another one on that Aaron always does is discomfort is where the change happens.
Totally.
So freaking true and awful.
Totally. It's going back to the word forward too. I should have said this earlier, but yes, forward is the idea that you're constantly growing and moving forward on your wellness path, wherever you're at. It doesn't matter, if your starting point's here versus here, but that doesn't matter what pace you're going, but you're always moving forward. You're growing, but at your own pace.
Mm-hmm.
So, coming back to this whole thing, we as humans, we compartmentalize everything. I think part of it is just to navigate in this world. We need words and we need definitions. And part of that compartmentalization is we say, this is work, this is home, this is recreation, this is working out, this is that. But then we also come to this place where we go, well, this is secular, this is work, but this is sacred, or this space is spiritual. And what we've been navigating around this whole time and going to is that it's better to come to an understanding that all is spiritual, all is sacred. And we know that you've had a spiritual background yourself. And I know, Dawn, you had a question for Stephanie about that.
Yeah. So part of what was intriguing to me, and we had actually never talked about like your spiritual background really until today. But I knew from my kind of background in ministry that you were creating a space here that was a place where people connect with the divine, where people connect with themselves, with one another, with what's bigger than them in this world. And maybe you had been doing that without realizing that it was a spiritual practice, that you were inviting people into a spiritual space. And so I was just wondering if you would be willing to share what your spiritual background and what your spiritual journey or your path on this thing called spirituality has been like.
Yeah. I mean, my background, I grew up Catholic. Both my parents were Catholic. And I think my last big thing was like having a first communion. But since then, I haven't been back to church. And we've been back to church a few times, like as a family, especially like my niece's first communion. I find it hard sometimes when I go there. I don't feel like a lot of it resonates with me. And sometimes probably with my kids. So it's just challenging. But I do find myself like going to some of the Uncommon Good events, or like I've heard, I know the past, Scott Schimmel come and speak. And I just feel like that is like a special, like a time in on our weekend, our busy weekends, that I'm like, nope, this is dedicated time to spend with family, to connect. And I always leave with a really positive message. Like, again, kind of similar, like where I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on this week. It just seems like I always come out with a good positive message to like lead my life in a better way.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So I just find it super intriguing, right? That we kind of have this overlapping path of what you're accomplishing with FWRD and what we're accomplishing with Uncommon Good, and that you're on this spiritual journey. And that you haven't really been connected with the church. That hasn't been something that has been super meaningful to you. And yet you're finding these ways to connect with a kind of a bigger spirituality, as opposed to like a religious institution, perhaps. I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
It sparks me. I told you this earlier. I referred to this earlier when we were all talking, but sometimes we can be surprised by how living and dynamic ancient scripture is. And there was a passage that I referred to earlier when we were talking about realizing that in this space that you've created not only a place where you get to connect with a more holistic understanding of physical and spiritual and living fully alive in connection with the divine, but you get to give that to other people, right? And yet it's not It's not a brick and mortar church where we would define or call it like this is where you go for an hour on Sunday. But we were telling you that this is every bit as sacred and spiritual as those designated church places in our community. And it all reminded me of this passage, and that's where Scripture is so alive and dynamic. Jesus has this interaction with, it's called the woman at the well, or Jesus meets the Samaritan woman.
Who, side note, was certainly not welcome in any religious institution, Jewish religious institution.
Right, at all. And so in that time, that was her place that people have said, that's where you go connect with God, and she was not included or welcome. So she probably felt like her life as a whole was not connecting with God. And so Jesus then goes up, meets her at the well, and he just peers into her life, and he like knows things about her life that no one knew. And she goes, okay, well, obviously you're a special person. You're either a prophet or something. And that's where she then goes, okay, I'm just going to read it to you. She goes, "Sir," the woman said, after Jesus looked into her life and goes, well, you know, that's not really your husband, is it? So she goes, you know something about me. This is crazy. I don't know if it's magic or voodoo or whatever you got going on. But she goes, "Sir, I can see that you are a prophet. Now, what I know is our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews, you spiritual ones, claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem." So she's thinking, this was spiritual for my ancestors, but now you're saying that place is spiritual, right? And if I'm not there, then I'm not included in connection with God. So Jesus goes, "Woman," I love that. "Woman," Jesus replied, "believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father, God the Creator, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem." So neither this space or that space. He says there is a time coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father, the Creator, in the Spirit and in truth. For they are the kind of worshipers that the Father God seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth. And side note, in between the lines of Jesus, he's going, look, the space nor the place does not matter. It's where your heart is in connection with the God that made you. And that's what happens here, and it breaks our compartmentalization of what is spiritual and what is sacred and what is secular and what is, where do we connect with God and where we don't. It's everywhere all the time.
Well, and the thing that I think is, I love that you drew that scripture out, because we do compartmentalize and we think, here's where I can go for my dose of religion, my dose of spirituality, whatever that looks like, whether it's your hour of meditation, whether it's going to church, whether, whatever that brand of spirituality looks like for you, it's probably connected to a space or certain practices. And what Jesus is saying is like, actually, it's not here or there. Like, you can connect with God anywhere, which means anything can be sacred. Any place can be sacred. And the thing that takes something from secular, not considered sacred, to something that's sacred is just a little bit of intention, right? There's like this perspective shift of, I'm going to take something that was ordinary and I'm going to put a little bit of intention around it. And suddenly this thing now carries more weight. Suddenly this thing allows me to connect with God. When I was going to do this thing anyways, I was just going to do it in a way that didn't connect me with God. Now I've put some intention around it and it helps me connect with God. And so before we dive into what some of those things might be in our regular life, I wanted to hear some of your intention around how you help people feel connected and supported and like they belong. Like, what are some of your intentional things that you do around creating that sense, that feeling it forward?
I think the big thing is we put our clients at the cornerstone of like every decision we make. And I mean, it's like our family. Like, a lot of them are very close friends, and they've been here. Oh my gosh, why am I getting emotional? 5-7 years. And so I care about them and their families greatly. And so from this moment they walk in, I want them greeted, from our other staff members, and there's childcare. So I have 2 little kids, 5 and 2. And so I know how important it is to have that time for yourself. And you're just, you operate as a better mother if you have that time for yourself. So from childcare, and then in the studio, as we talked about earlier, it's just that being open to all levels and making everyone feel successful. Yet, you're challenged in class, but successful, and then leaving with that positive message. And then from this area too, I think a lot of times people question what this area is about.
So explain where we're sitting
in this
right
area.
now.
So my vision when we created this, my husband actually built this for us the studio. Yeah, go Mike. And before, the desk was this way, and I saw this windowsill, and it was just a bunch of stuff. It was not being utilized, and so I was like, let's move the desk over there. And I really wanted an area to connect. And so he did this full table for us. He did all that. And then the plants.
Good. We need to hire Mike to make one of these.
We have a lot of extra ones actually.
Okay.
So yes, at our house, but it's just an area to connect. I think when you feel supported, that was another big feeling. I want everyone to feel supported when they walk through our doors, and when they walk out of class. And when you feel connected and supported, on your journey, I think you thrive. You move forward on your path, and you excel, inside these walls, but also outside these walls. And so this is hopefully that space where you can, not many people use it, I think, but coffee and tea, and a lot of it's staff right now, but we want you to stay here and hang out before and after class.
Oh, so good.
And you also create opportunities for people to connect outside of FWRD. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we also do, I love event. I've always been an event planner. I was social chair in college. So we do a lot of events, probably one every month or every other month. So for example, right now we have a wonderful partnership with Rancho Bernardo Inn, and we're doing a summer sculpt series. So every Thursday night, and we align. So their whole thing is we want more of our community coming to our space too. And so Thursday nights we're doing a sunset class on their pool deck. And they've been really great. And then afterwards, we stayed till 10:30 at night from a 6:30 class. And it was all of a lot of our members. But it was so fun. We did class from 6:30 to 7:15, and then 7 to 10. It was a lot of eating and drinking and enjoying each other's company. It was
we're
so
big
fun.
fans of eating and drinking over here.
Yeah, there was a lot of rosé. And
did you bust out your Enneagram book on that night?
Oh yes, yeah. Well, no, that was a different night. Yes. All the different types. That's the next one. Next RBN event. Next July 11th. And then another example is the retreats that we do. We try to do those once or twice a year. And that's just another time, just to get away from your daily routines. And we'll do them in Mexico. We've done Ojai. We've done Mexico. I'm working one on Sedona. And it's usually 3 nights, 3 to 4 days of just moving, meditating, connecting with everyone else in our community, and just enjoying each other's time, enjoying each other's company, and making friends. And it's really an amazing experience, I think.
Yeah. And one of the things I love about what you just described is, again, it's one of those ways in which there's so much alignment with what you're doing and what we're doing, and that intentionality of going out into the community and taking what's good from what you're doing in your space and bringing it out, making partnerships with other organizations in the community, and building, I'm using the word community a lot, but building community with the people that are not only a part of your studio, but people who have never set foot in your studio. And they're like, oh, what's this going on at Rancho Bernardo? Is Bernardo Inn?
Rancho Bernardo Inn, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And
I also want to say, I think one of the litmus test of, have you just put on an event? Whether it's a workout, whether it's sculpting, or whether it's church for an hour, or whether it's a business event, the greatest litmus test of have you created something more than an event is how long people hang out and connect afterwards, right? And so if you created not only this space, but at your events, and people go to a 6 o'clock thing, but they're there till 10:30 and they don't want it to stop, and you're breaking rules, we break rules with our wineries that we're supposed to shut down at this time, but everyone stays and hangs out. Or in church spaces around the community, people hang out for an hour or 2 hours after because they just want to be together. That is the litmus test of great community, and you've obviously done it and are doing it. And that is such a gift for people that may be struggling with feelings of isolation at times where they don't fit, but then all of a sudden a group of strangers that have something in common become family. And that is an amazing spiritual thing.
That's right. Yeah. So I want to take a minute as we wrap up to talk about what are some things, because we're going to have a Wine and Words on July 7th, and we're going to tackle this topic of sacred spaces and kind of dig into some of this a little bit more. But what are some things that we could be doing, maybe two things, that would turn something that might be considered ordinary, like a workout studio, or a kitchen table, or, shopping at the grocery store. What's some intention we could put around a few of those things that would help us make the shift, help us to start seeing things in a more full, holistic, in a better picture? Thoughts, anybody?
Are you saying within these four walls or outside these four
Anywhere.
walls?
Even you could give a tip on what's something that people could do at FWRD, and then we could give a tip about here's something to do in other spaces.
I mean, a lot of it, like we kind of talked about earlier, was just like the connection with yourself and just giving yourself that time. I think, a lot of us lead such busy lives. We have kids, and it's just carving out that time is so hard. So I think in the studio, for example, like we talked about earlier, the invitation to focus, like actually setting an intention and closing your eyes and just taking that time to tune in. And then personally, just like outside the studio, like for me, I find myself doing it when I'm cooking. I know that might be weird, or when I'm
I love that. That's a perfect example.
For me, I'm I kind of, hopefully my kids are they're entertained outside. Let's just assume. And they're
in a perfect world, and you're drinking a glass of wine.
No one's crying. I have a glass of wine.
And no one's screaming.
No one is screaming. Yeah. And I'm chopping up, whatever, making dinner.
Yeah.
But it's very calming to me, and I'm able to connect, and I'm just, I don't know, in the zone.
Yeah, that's perfect. So
assuming again, there's no 2-year-old screaming at me and everyone's hungry and
Yeah. So it's the unicorn experience,
Yeah.
but what's an intention you could set around that would turn something that might be considered ordinary, although you enjoy it, and could make it a sacred moment, or something that helps you connect with the divine in that?
I mean, I think for me to take my, focus on my breath, and I don't know, I get in the flow. It's my time to connect with myself, and what do I need? What am I feeling? I don't know.
Yeah, I love it. That's perfect.
I thought of one. It ties in. I think this intentionally awakening to God's presence in those moments is actually a challenge from Jesus, where he refers to vine and branches, right? You're the branches. I'm the vine. Remain in me is his challenge. And some other translations say it, abide in me. That remain in me is just being awakened to the connection we have with God all the time. But so many times we need indicators, we need sparks, we need reminders. So for me, whether it's a Post-it note, sometimes I've challenged so many people put a Post-it note in their car that has maybe some cool verse that when we get caught in the rat race, the speed, the busyness of every day, you just look down, you see one verse that reminds you that God is with you, and that even this moment, in the rush of all things with kids screaming at you, God's
even
right there with you.
Even
with, right? Totally. That even in the mess and the noise of life, an indicator, a reminder that God is with you in that moment, and that what you're doing right now is just as spiritual as it is business. Those are good things, whether Post-it notes, bracelets, I don't know. What else? What sparks you guys? What reminds you guys to remain connected?
Well, mine, it's a little bit more of a 1,000-foot view kind of thing, and the understanding that God created everything. For me, it's thinking about, okay, well, God created this earth, and he created us in his image, and we get to inhabit this thing that he created. And if you look around, even in this building that was created by human beings and is not necessarily, it didn't grow out of the ground like a tree, but the materials that are made, you look around, that, developing that discipline of hey, look at that coffee mug. Somebody made that, somebody designed that, a person designed that, somebody gathered the materials for it, and somebody actually physically put it into the kiln to be fired and created, and maybe they put it on an assembly line to be created. Who knows? But the interconnectedness of all things, and this kind of we've talked about it in the past of like the economy that God has created of the world. And that's a little bit more of a 1,000-foot view. But what it does for me is that I get to go into Starbucks and I get to look at the barista and I get to look at her face and I get to see she was made in the image of God.
Her name was Donna this morning.
Donna. I get to look Donna in the face, ask for my drink, and remember that she was created in the image of God. God loves her, and she's going to go make my drink, and she's going to use materials that came out of this natural world that God created. And there's so many interconnected pieces of how all that stuff got there. It's kind of mind-blowing to me, and it's probably way too big of an answer than what you're looking for. But everything's connected to me.
Well, I've heard so many people refer to that, and I think that the small way to shrink that down is that beauty, nature, and design can be reminders of us of the God that's behind it all. And then immediately we see something beautiful. We see amazing design. We see in nature the sunset or a mountain, and we go, God, thank you. And all of a sudden, that moment that was just life becomes deeply spiritual.
So mine is like really not as pretty as what Cody just said. Because
I felt like mine was so rambly.
I was thinking of like, what's like something that I squarely have placed in the secular realm, and like, what could I do to shift my thinking? And so I was thinking about laundry because I hate laundry. It makes me make that noise.
Sounded like you had a hairball there.
And
it was just the laundry.
There's friggin' always laundry. Like I can do all the friggin' laundry, and then there is more friggin' laundry. Yeah. It's just really upsetting. And so,
is this the clean pile or the dirty pile?
Nobody knows. They've all been sitting there for weeks,
good.
and they're intermingled now. I just have to wash
You can
them
wear
all.
it again. Yes.
Totally.
So I was like, okay, what could I do to help me shift my thinking around laundry? Or like, I have to do laundry. It has to happen at some point when we all run out of underwear. I got to do it, right? Or go to Target to buy new ones, which everybody judged me for. And I want to say, I'm not the only one who goes to Target to buy underwear instead of doing their laundry.
You're also not the only one who just shows up to meetings going commando because laundry hasn't been done. I'm not saying that's the circumstance now, but we did have that conversation at a gathering last night. That all has happened.
So, but like if I could shift my understanding or even like put an intention around laundry of like, this is an act of care. And so, this is an act of self-care. Like I need to do my laundry so that I have things that I like to wear. And it's an act of care for my family. And it can help me think larger thoughts about like how the ordinary things that God does to take care of me, suddenly maybe not so sad. Like it's probably going to be a practice because I hate laundry that much, but like it can start to shift my thinking around this thing that I hate to do, but it's an obligation to be mindful of, like, it helps me think more important things than just like, I hate doing freaking laundry. Like I can start to think about how the things God does to take care of me, and he probably isn't grumbling about it.
Yeah. Love that.
So our hope is that this conversation will spark anyone who's listening to all of a sudden wake up that no matter what they're doing, whether it's laundry, driving, or staring at Donna the barista in the eyes at Starbucks, or
you made that creepy.
Yeah, you made
I know, or sculpting with a bar.
I'm a happily married man.
And reconnecting with the ballet background that Cody has here at FWRD Fitness, that we can turn every moment into an intentional connection with a God who loved us and designed us to be in community and belonging. And so, Stephanie, great job on creating that here. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so honored.
Yeah, this is super fun.
And hey, Stephanie, so what are some things that you can leave our listeners with if maybe they've never set foot in your door? What do you want them to know? How can they connect? Social media, all that stuff. Oh,
yes. Oh, thank you. Well, we're in Rancho Bernardo. We're at the Plaza Shopping Center, and we're on Instagram. And Dawn helps us with the social media, too. But Instagram, we're on FWRD Fitness, FWRD, though, fitness. And, yeah, that's it. Nice. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Speaking of social media, you can find us Uncommon Good SD on all the socials, and you can find us on YouTube, Uncommon Good. I think we're SD on there, but go to our website also to find information about events. Uncommon Good.
Upcoming soon events. Come join us.
Yes, there's lots of things happening this summer with Uncommon Good. So uncommongoodsd.com/events. You can see all the list of the things coming up this summer. This weekend we have Wine and Words on July 7th at Espinosa Winery. And we'll be talking about this, and we'll probably be talking about this a little bit more in our podcast this month.
Because this is good stuff.
It's really
Right?
good.
Make it a spiritual summer and live life. Thanks for joining us all.
All right. Peace out, y'all.